Hi, I'm Al Bundy. We're doing a special edition of Meet the Leaders here in Trenton at the New Jersey State Legislature, and we're talking to some of our legislators. My special guest right now is Assemblywoman Nancy Pinkin. Make sure I get that right. How you doing now? You are the Deputy Speaker Pro Temp. Now, what does the Deputy Speaker Pro Temp do?
Whatever the Speaker Pro Tem tells us to do.
Okay.
No, it's a position that is just part of leadership, but more importantly, I serve as chair of the Environmental Committee, I serve as vice chair of Health Committee, and I serve on Law and Public Safety. And I consider those three really important areas. I mean, obviously the environment, there's so many things happening right now. Health is important to all of us. We can't live without our health. And Law and Public Safety also has a lot going on, a lot of changes happening in that arena.
I know you've been unrelenting related to recycling and waste, even here in our state bills. Tell us about the bill you have to deal with that.
Well, actually we're going to have a hearing in the summer on recycling. We have a bill going through on the plastic ban, on plastic bags, and that's a big issue. It will take care of straws and plastic. But right now, even more importantly than that, we have a recycling crisis where China used to take our recycling, and now they're not taking it anymore. And we have towns and counties that have really worked so hard to get our communities to recycle, and now they don't have anywhere to send it. And so we're going to have a hearing to look at best practices, what we can do.
Where could we possibly send?
Well, I think, first of all, the first thing is to reduce the amount of waste we have so we don't have to do it somewhere, send it somewhere. In my town, we started a program called Free Cycle, and which twice a year we have a sort of like a free rummage sale where they take things and anybody can pick it up and then it doesn't go in trash. And then we also started ways to reduce waste, though. So instead of having the garbage come twice a week, they come once a week, but people can go to a drop-off station and drop things off if they want. We're doing a lot with paper shredding. I'm working on a program right now for paint recycling, because everybody knows what happens. You have those cans of paint, and if you don't get to the township recycling program, it goes in the backyard. And
you got to be there on the right day, and
but in my town, we have unfortunately, we have a Superfund site that was from paint. That was a paint company that dumped everything in, and when you think of the millions of dollars we had to spend to clean that up, it contaminated the water. System as well, so it's so toxic to people. So we're working on that program. So we're working on a lot of these programs. We're working on food waste, how to take care of that. We tried to find a company that would melt down the plastic bags and turn it back into petroleum. So we've been working very closely with all of the university professors. The state spends a lot of money to provide for higher ed, but we have a lot of people in the higher ed system that are experts on so many things. They had a big program on microplastics and trying to get the plastics out of the water, and the professors that are working on these things know so much, and we're trying to do everything we can to take advantage of their expertise as well.
Let me just tell you that's certainly very important. I know it's important that we also remind everybody they need to use degradable paper and products and those types of things. But let me change gears, because before we start, you talk about more women that are on boards or not on boards or here. And let's talk about what our public boards are here in government that are key and that you have an interest in.
Well, I had read about a bill that passed in California. It was a resolution requiring public companies, to put women on their boards, because most of them are all men. And when you think of 70% of the purchasing decisions are made by women, but yet there are no women on the boards, they really can't represent what the needs of the community are.
Now, you talk about major companies and corporations,
right,
and many times people are paid quite handsomely to be on some of those boards.
They can, some of them, yes. And so the bill was passed as a resolution in California, but when they passed it, even though they passed it as a resolution, which is basically a suggestion, no one implemented any changes, no companies in California. So California went back and passed it as a bill. The Chamber of Commerce in California threatened to sue them over that, saying that they didn't want people telling them what to do with their boards. But the women that were business owners and working in the business community actually rallied together and asked them not to do that. They did not have a challenge, and they are now moving forward on the law. It was put into law. The Governor Brown in California signed it, and we're trying to do the same thing in New Jersey.
So you'd like to see something like that here. Now, do you have a bill in committee?
I do have a bill. Now, one of the, it's A314, and the, I could be off on that number because we have so many bills up today, I can't remember all the numbers.
I think you have 167 bills today.
Yes, 170 bills, plus the budget on top of that. But the important thing is, like this past year, we did bills on equal pay for women. We did bills saying—
That's the Diana Allen Act.
Yes.
That was a very big passage.
Yes, and she was a leader. She was a Republican, and she was a leader not only—
We remember
in the
Diane
state,
well.
And nationally, she was a reporter originally, but she got into her position actually because she was discriminated against in her job as a news reporter. But she was always a leader and a role model to all of the women in the legislature. But the important part is when you talked about, we did a bill on sick pay, and most of the women tend to be in the lower paid jobs. They have children. They have to take— the companies, a lot of the companies, their employees have sick pay, but if you look at the lower level jobs, they don't have sick pay. And the women are always like, take 2 aspirins and call me after daycare. Because
especially in the hospitality industry.
Yes.
And places like
if
that.
they don't go to work, they lose their job.
That's right. They don't get paid.
Meanwhile, all of the people are going to work when they're sick. They're contaminating everybody else in the workforce. So it's not really cost effective. We looked at, passed a bill that said that you couldn't ask somebody's pay at their previous job because women that take time off to have children, they might go back to a job like being a reporter, like being a CEO.
Right, and it's a way for the employer to kind of like make sure that their pay stays where it was and not give them the increase that they deserve. Now I need you to take a breath for a second, because
I just want to add one more thing to that. One really important thing, and that is
quickly
that that also affects women's Social Security, their retirement, and women tend to be more impoverished than men in retirement, and they have that perpetual punishment that they have for having a lower salary carries all the way through to retirement and Social Security. So it really has a big impact. So that's the important part of having women on board, so they would understand all these issues and bring that forward.
No doubt, and we think that'd be great, and I'm so glad we have an increase here of women in our state legislature, which we've kind of like been making record history as far as the number of women that we have now serving, and hopefully we're going to have plenty more. I need a short answer. We're concerned about what's going on with addiction and opioids are really causing a real crisis here in the state. What are we doing? Something in the budget related to that?
Well, I work in healthcare, so addiction has been a very big issue. We've worked on changing. We did a lot of laws changing PMP, having physicians be able to check if people got a prescription somewhere else. We've been retraining the healthcare providers to reduce the use of opioids and try to have non-opioid prescription drugs. We originally—
It's kind of a challenge for really severe injuries, am I correct?
I think one of the things, the most important thing that people can learn about opioids is people used to think it's only certain people that were maybe not as valuable as other people were addicted, but we realized that it could be the CEO of a company.
It's across the board. It's everybody.
It could be anybody. Anybody is vulnerable. Everybody knows somebody who's been addicted.
And I'm trying to see, did we put something in this budget to help deal with that crisis?
We have a lot of programs that actually are in the budget to address addiction, both education in the schools, programs, administration of the Narcan, fentanyl addiction. There are bills that say that the police will now test it. One of the big problems with addiction is the fentanyl because it's so powerful.
Kill you immediately.
And it is even killing the workers who come across somebody.
The first responders you're talking
Yes.
about. Let me ask you another question. Is there any money in there to improve what's going on with New Jersey Transit? Our fares still increasing, but people are still concerned about service.
Yes, actually, the governor put in $25 million. The legislature put in another $50 million on top of that to address this issue.
The governor campaigned a lot on free tuition for college. I know he had something called the Community College Opportunity Grant. Is that being restored? Will that continue? I know this was a pilot, I believe.
Well, money was put in for free colleges. The money was increased a little bit, but because we found that the money in the previous pilot so far hasn't been spent, so we're going to make sure we're going to be increasing the eligibility. The family income was 45,000, now it will be 65,000 of families that will be able to apply for that child to get into the free college program.
Budget shutdown, yes, no?
What?
Will we have a state shutdown because of the budget, yes, no?
We're praying no.
Okay.
We're obviously here for the residents. We want to make sure we get everything done on time.
We are out of time. I want to thank Assemblywoman Nancy Pinkin for being here with us.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for
sir.
your service to the state of New Jersey.
Thank you.